Hey, this is David. In the past, I reviewed the Nikon 35Ti, a premium compact film camera from the 90s. In that video, I included footage taken on a digital camera using the lens from a Nikon 35Ti. This was made possible thanks to Mr. Miyazaki at MS Optical, who can take compact film camera lenses and convert them to the versatile M mount, allowing them for the first time ever to be used on digital cameras and fully manual film cameras. Since I happen to have both a converted lens and the original Nikon 35Ti, I decided to do a little comparison and see how the conversion stacks up to the original. As far as appearances go, MS Optical conversions often retain some original components, but use one of Miyazaki's helicoil designs for focusing, which are rangefinder coupled. In the case of this lens, there's a new barrel that adds a filter thread, which if you watched my original 35Ti review, you'll know that one of my biggest complaints was not being able to use filters, so this is a nice upgrade. With the conversion, you also get a focus scale and some kind of indicators for the aperture, but in this case you don't get actual numbers, which does make it difficult to get correct exposures on cameras without integrated light meters. So how does the converted lens compare to the original? I did several comparison tests originally on digital. For this I used the A7S and Voigtlander VM adapter, and in the original 35Ti I used PORTRA 400 and did my best to match the photos with a similar frame, as well as match the colors in post. And I'll put up several comparison photos here. Can you guess which side is the original and which one is the converted lens on digital? In the end, I wasn't satisfied with this test, as wide-angle rangefinder lenses often have difficulty on digital mirrorless cameras in the form of smeared corners, as you can see here. This can be observed on film, especially when photographing wide open, but definitely not to the same degree as we see on digital. I won't be getting into too much detail on why this smearing occurs in this video, but if there's enough interest, I will make a separate video on that topic. I do think it's worth mentioning though, as this is something that happens on pretty much all of my MS Optical lenses and some of my rangefinder lenses on digital that otherwise perform very well on film. So I decided to load up both my Leica MP with the converted lens and the original 35Ti with Fuji Color 100 to get a more apples to apples comparison. One of the difficulties I encountered with this comparison, both film and digital, was the lack of a proper f-stop on the converted lens, which made it very difficult to match the exposures perfectly. To try to overcome this as well as test the lens performance, I decided to use both lenses wide open as long as light permitted, and here are the results on film. At first I metered through the Nikon 35Ti and matched the exposure on the MP. Later on in the test, I tried to see what the MP was metering at, and was surprised to see that the MP was giving a slightly overexposed reading from the Nikon exposure settings. It is possible that the converted lens transmits just a bit more light. Compact film camera apertures are typically different than those on interchangeable lenses, and when converting your lens, installing a new aperture is usually necessary. In this case, Mr. Miyazaki added a 12-blade aperture to the converted 35Ti lens, which is very different from the aperture on the original compact camera. Photographing wide open seemed like the best way to get a fair comparison. Wide open, bokeh looks identical, and exposures are also pretty much identical. Could you tell which photos were taken with the original 35Ti? Honestly, I think it's pretty difficult to distinguish between these photos. It just looks like I took two exposures with the same camera in the same place, one after another. Upon very close inspection, the converted lens may have slightly more vignetting and a little bit more smearing in the corners, but on film at this resolution, it's very difficult to tell. But it may not even be about the conversion. It's very difficult to produce two lenses that are 100% exactly the same, especially in the 90s. And I think in any practical terms, when it comes to photographing on film, the original and conversion produce a very similar image, which is all great news for compact film camera lovers because these things don't last forever, and Mr. Miyazaki can allow you to continue to get that look that you love so much, even once these electronics give out. For some, it might even be preferable. In the case of the Nikon 35Ti, the added filter thread could allow for more creative possibilities, not achievable on the original camera, not to mention access to faster shutter speeds on Leicas and other M-mount rangefinders. On digital, the results aren't necessarily ideal, which is unfortunate because this setup would be a very compact and amazing walk-around camera kit, but it's also not terrible and can lead to some unique results if that's the look that you're going for. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment down below. I will also be putting a link in the description to some follow-up resources so that you can get some higher resolution images to compare yourself. And also, because I did spend some time making that PORTRA 400 preset, I'm going to be putting that out for free with a link in the description as well. I'm David, and I'll be back with more videos soon. Thanks.